Welcome to People Doing Good for Others. Good morning. This is People Doing Good for Others, where we honor and praise and celebrate those whose lives and careers are making significant contributions in our communities. I'm Gary York, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to be with you today. I want to thank Wilkes Communications, RiverStreet Network, and WIFM for this sponsorship. We bring to you those who truly matter, and my featured guest today is Mr. Fred Patterson. He's from Winston-Salem. He's an executive with the Boy Scouts of America and gives his talent and time and treasures to making a difference in young lives. He's an Eagle Scout. He grew up in Winston-Salem and graduated from High Point University. He's owned his own business for a while and has given so many great years to the Boy Scouts of America. So please stay with us today, and this is going to be a most interesting and informative half an hour. Good morning to you, Fred Patterson.
Thank you, Gary, for having me today.
It's an honor to have you here and representing the Boy Scouts. If you will, tell us about the mid-60s and becoming an Eagle and some of those things.
Be glad to. I guess it was around 1966, I guess I'm telling my age now, when I was around 11 years old, my cousin asked me about coming to a scout troop meeting with him, and I had never heard of scouts at the time. So he took me, and this is over in near Stanleyville, North Carolina, near Rural Hall, and a local Presbyterian church there, and I got my first scout meeting, absolutely loved it, and from that point on, scouting has been a huge part of my entire life. So I've been a part of scouting ever since 1966.
So you volunteered some then, and do you remember going to Raven Knob first time?
Oh yes, my first time in the summer of '66 was going to Camp Raven Knob up near Dobson, and quite an experience. As a small young person and seeing all these woods and all the creeks and all the things you can do while you're up there, it was pretty impressive. So yeah, I was hooked.
Yep. So you went to High Point. A little bit about that.
Yeah, when I graduated from high school, I went for a small stint to Forsyth Tech in Winston-Salem, got a few of my requirements out of the way, and then went to High Point University, High Point College at the time. It's much different then than it is today. High Point University is quite an expensive and quite a great institution. It was a small institution and a really good institution at the time, but it's really something now. So yeah, I'm a proud alumni of High Point.
Good. So let's just go straight to your current involvement with Boy Scouts today.
Sure.
And tell us, what do you do?
Well, I am a development director for Old Hickory Council in Winston-Salem. And Old Hickory covers a territory of about 8 counties, including northwest North Carolina, which is Wilkes and Watauga and Ashe and Allegheny and Yadkin and Surrey and Stokes. And we have field executives that work in these areas. As a matter of fact, we have 3 field executives that work in those areas whose responsibility is to recruit new volunteers to serve as scout volunteers, scout leaders, to go into the schools and recruit youth to join the Scouts, from Cub Scouting all the way up to our exploring program, and to administer the program for the volunteers in those areas I just discussed. And so my job as development director is to support those field executives in the area of fundraising. Our agency is completely funded by private donations, as well as a few of the United Funds and United Ways in some of those areas that we serve. Through our fundraising efforts and through our camping program at Camp Raven Knob, which is near Dobson, North Carolina, we are able to provide a really quality program. And so our fundraising centers around helping to to maintain and sustain that program.
Talk about Raven Knob as an entity, a contributor to maybe nothing like it in the whole country, or folks come here from everywhere.
They do, and of course we're quite proud of Camp Raven Knob. And I served as a young person in high school. I served on the summer camp staff of Raven Knob in the early 70s, so I have a real love for it. So I'm a little bit biased about it. But Raven Knob is about 3,400 acres that we have nestled right there in the Low Gap Dobson area. And in the summertime, we will camp about 5,000 youth and leaders that come with the scout units up to Raven Knob. And that's a lot over a 7-week period. We draw scouts from 12 states. We are so well known throughout the United States. As a matter of fact, we have been, or Raven Knob has been, deemed one of the top Boy Scout camps in the country, in the top 15 or so. And so we have a large draw from scouts all over the Southeast, from really Houston all the way up to New York City and Miami and up. So we're quite proud of that. And we have an excellent program where we instruct merit badges, not only the normal badges that you hear about in scouts, like camping, cooking, and all that, but we even have STEM merit badges that we teach at Raven Knob in areas of computers and robotics, things of that nature. So we've got a really dynamic summer program at Raven Knob, and it's a huge part of what we do. As a matter of fact, most of the scouts and scouters in this area have such a love for Raven Knob that that it's become really the linchpin for scouting in this area.
So it goes back into the 50s, was it, when it started? It was given to scouting in 1954, and its first summer was in 1955. So the year I was born basically was when the first summer camp started at Camp Raven Knob. And the funny thing about it, Gary, Raven Knob was a local community park, private park, back in the 30s, 40s, and early 50s. And, and so it ceased being that, and then the property was donated to the scouts for use for sole purpose of using it for scout camping. And we've taken that, and we have over the last, I don't know, 30 to 40 years, pumped millions of dollars through fundraising efforts, through capital campaigns and private donations. We've pumped millions of dollars into the infrastructure of Raven Knob so that our young people will have a really top-notch place to go to learn about how to be a scout, how to be a young person, enjoy all the fruits of what that property has to offer. So I understand that the food operation, the speed within how you can handle so many youngsters in a period of time, there's nothing like it in the country.
It is interesting that you say that. About 15 to 18 years ago, I believe it was, the Vaughn family from Mount Airy made it possible for us to construct a new dining hall. I can't exactly remember how many square feet it is, but I'm going to say it's around 50,000 square feet. It has 4 serving lines, and we can serve 1,000 people that come through the serving lines in under 10 minutes and have them seated eating their meal. So that it is one of the things that helps us in our, it's a big draw, because feeding kids and feeding adults who are hungry at a summer camp is crucial. So we get them in, feed them great food, get them out, and it's quite an operation.
The Vaughn name with the Boy Scouts of America is almost, when you speak one, you speak the other.
Right.
So there's Harry, my age, tragically lost in an accident. Then Richard is the one that I'm sure pulled all that together.
Yes.
So I'm glad you knew the history of that.
Yeah, Harry, of course, it's named in honor of Harry and the family, and Richard. Not only with the dining hall, but Richard and his family are very instrumental in other parts of Raven Knob and helping us fund some infrastructure. Yeah. So the Vaughn family has been very good to scouting, and we really appreciate them.
Tell us about the Order of the Arrow and some of those things that happen every week.
Yeah, the Order of the Arrow is I'm going to call it like an honor camper or like an honor society, like you would have in a high school, where you have a National Honor Society. The Order of the Era is like the National Honor Society of Scouting, where young people can be elected by their troop mates to be inducted into this society, Order of the Era, and it's a high honor. And the Order of the Era has a theme of working with and promoting the Native American culture, and not to mimic it or to belittle it, but to honor it in a way which we honor how the Native Americans treat the land and treat each other and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of symbolism. But the Order of the Era has been a significant part of the summer camp operation at Raven Knob, and every Wednesday night during the camp season, parents will come up to visit their scouts, have a big picnic supper with fried chicken or whatever else they bring up and there's a big family night program at our amphitheater. We have an amphitheater that was made about 10 years ago thanks to the Vaughn and Wilkes family.
Right.
It holds about 3,000 people. And every Wednesday night during the summer, we have this big campfire with all the parents and the scouts looking at it. We have a professional sound system there at the amphitheater, and we'll have a Native American dance pageant, and it's very traditional and very well received by the families that come up for that event every single week. So it's a lot of fun.
Fred Patterson, you're grateful to be an Eagle Scout, and you spoke of a Hale Kellogg, a person that had a tremendous impact in your life. Who is he?
Yeah, Kellogg Hale was actually the founder of the Order of the Arrow in this area back in the 30s. And when I was a young person on the Raven Knob staff in the 70s, he would always come up, even at his advanced age at that time, and to the Wednesday night gatherings that I just spoke of, and he would stop by the place that I was working at the time, which was at the very entrance to the camp, and we would chat for a long time. And he had an impact on the way on his approach to life to me. That, along with my scoutmasters, who are still living today in Winston-Salem, had a huge impact in mentoring me when I was a young person. And if you talk to any scouts that have been in the program for any length of time, you'll find that those scout leaders will have an impact on their lives, and certainly mine did at the time.
Good. All right, let's talk about the mission.
Right.
Boy Scout mission is so important to, you just readily gave me an introduction to it yesterday, so let's tell us about why we do this.
Well, you know, folks identify scouting as being kids that go out and do camping and hiking and all kinds of high adventure stuff, and learning about merit badges and learning how to cook over a fire, or learning about different things. And that's all a part of the methods of scouting. But the mission of scouting is to help prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling in them the values of the Scout Oath and Law. And you'll notice that mission has nothing to say about camping or merit badges or being an Eagle Scout or anything. We're all about trying to mold young people. And the way we achieve that is through the methods of scouting, which is the camping, the visible things that people see in the community, the uniforms, the camping, all the merit badges, which includes a lot of STEM merit badges that I mentioned before. And all those things wrapped in, including going to scout meetings on a weekly basis, and going to camporees and being mentored by those adults, those parents, those scout leaders, are all the methods by which we achieve the mission of scouting. So, and when I tell people that, they scratch their head and hadn't realized, it's like an aha moment.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why y'all do this.
Right.
And so the mission of scouting is very important. And we'd like to, whenever we get the chance, try to help people understand what that mission really is all about.
And I've also heard that there's probably 2 adult supporters of every scout in the background that are doing things at all times.
Yes, it's very important. We take youth safety extremely important, especially in this day and age when you've got a lot of influences in social media and other things. When you've got a large organization like ours, and you've got a lot of people working as volunteers and that kind of thing, we want to make sure that all of our scouts are safe. So about 25 or 30 years ago, we instituted a youth protection program that's every year has been updated and actually strengthened. So now when a volunteer wants to become a part of scouting, an adult, they have to go through a stringent background check. They have to take a extensive youth protection course. They have to abide by all the rules and regulations. We help parents understand through all this that everybody needs to be vigilant to make sure all their kids and everybody's in a safe manner. Part of that is making sure that whenever there are scouts gathered, there's always 2 adults at the same place. We never allow any youth to be by themselves with an adult. It has to be 2 adults present at all times, 2 or more present at all times. And we at the Boy Scouts are very, very adamant about making sure that our adults and volunteers understand the importance of youth safety.
Yeah. Speak of the Bentley guy that was inducted into our Hall of Fame here lately. I think it said maybe 66 years. Mm-hmm. Just speak to Mr. Bentley, if you will.
John Bentley, I first met John Bentley in 1971 when I was 16 years old. He was a scout leader from this area, had a scout troop. I can't recall the scout troop number at the time, but he was part of a large contingent of scouts from the Wilkes County area, and just I was pretty impressed with him as a 16-year-old. But the thing about John Bentley is he really cares about the kids that he has under his wing. He runs ran a top-notch scouting program. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young people have gone through his troop over the years, and that he's been a part of. He's well loved in scouting and community circles up this way, and right. He's just a wonderful person. And we're so thankful in this area to have a lot of John Bentleys. We've got a lot of men and women who are like John, who want to make an impact for young people in our area and through scouting. And so John's not alone, but he's certainly at the cream of the crop.
Fred Patterson, I'm honored that you're here today. Just tell us, on a layman's terms, what do you do?
Thanks for asking about that, Gary. It's kind of hard. From day to day, it's kind of hard to pin it down, because as a nonprofit agency, all of us who are hired in our agency have a specific job, but there's that little fine print that says you need to do anything that you're asked to do that needs to be done in your agency. And so we do lots of things. I wear lots of hats. My primary hat really is in the area of fundraising. We have an annual campaign that's called Friends of Scouting, where we give community members as well as parents in our scout units the opportunity to make an annual gift of money to our Friends of Scouting program to help support the programs that the council has, the council being Old Hickory Council out in Winston-Salem and the 8 counties we serve. And that money goes to help support all the scout troops and the Cub Scout packs and Explorer posts, to help train leaders, help provide funds for our camping program at Raven Knob, help to provide the tools necessary for our volunteers who are on the front lines, the scout leaders and the parents and all those, to be able to do what they need to do. So we support that effort. And that's what the fundraising is for. As a part of our annual fundraiser campaign called Friends of Scouting, we also have several events throughout the year. Like a lot of nonprofits will do special fundraising events. Like for instance, a couple of years ago, we honored Dr. Hal Stewart, I believe it was, up here in Elkin.
Oh, yeah.
As a good scout.
And Tom Gwynn this year.
And Tom Gwynn this year.
Yep.
Over in Elkin for their long service to the community, not just in scouting, yep, but just because of who they are in the community. And we like to recognize the hallmarks of those community folks who have done such a good job. In Winston-Salem, we have a Distinguished Citizen Award dinner every year, and have for the last 30 years, to honor some Forsyth County citizen for their impact in the community, whether it's in scouting or some other way. And this past year, for instance, or this past April, we recognized Dr. Gary Green, who's just retired as the president of Forsyth Technical Community College. What a fine life he led, and what a great president for the last 15 years that Gary was, and helped bring really Forsyth Tech into the next level.
Yeah.
And he was well deserving of that honor. And we use that as a fundraiser, but it's all about honoring that person. So that was this past year, or past spring. So and we have other smaller fundraisers like sporting clay shoots and golf tournaments throughout the year to help raise funds in the different communities that we work in.
When at the Hal Stewart and Tom Gwynn breakfast, room full, probably 50 people, there were at least 5 or maybe 7 professionals in your group. And I was so impressed with the number that came together to honor the community and the recipient of the award. And,
right.
So you guys work together
we do.
As a team to get these things accomplished.
Right. We have some really good professional field executives, and whenever one of them has an event, we all try to come together and support that individual, like Kevin Cheek here in this area, and Hunter Day, who's one of our new executives and a graduate of Appalachian State. Hunter covers Wilkes and Watauga, Ashland, Allegheny. And Kevin is down here in Yadkin and parts of Elkin. And you know, that's part of what we do as a team, so that when one of them has a function, we'll come together and support that, so that everything is going to be successful. So
I was so impressed with that.
We have a great team.
Yep, yep. So we go into a community and identify an accomplished, successful leader, and then ask him or her to be the Good Scout. Is it the Good Scout?
The Good Scout Award.
Good Scout Award. And that draws folks out of the community that are encouraged to give.
And that's true. And also it helps to elevate the profile of scouting, you know, because a lot of stuff that scouting does is in the background. It happens in the troop meetings every week or the Cub Scout meetings. And the public doesn't really get to see a whole lot of what goes on in scouting, because everything's kind of done, you know, at night, on the weekends, that kind of thing in scout events. And so those fundraiser public events are a good way for us to showcase scouting, help others know in the community what we're all about, and at the same time, you know, give back to the community by honoring someone who's made a significant impact. And
so the Fairfield Inn donated the facility, yes, I'm sure, and we had a nice meal, and it just was top notch. I want to compliment your group for bringing it together.
Well, thank you for that. It was and it's a lot of fun to do that kind of thing too. Yeah. We enjoy doing that.
You couldn't have picked 2 better individuals. The ones I've been to are
right.
Hal Stewart and Tom Gwynn are just the finest. You know.
Yeah, and you know, and there's lots of others that make kind of in the background and behind the scenes do a lot of good things for the communities and for scouting in particular. So,
Fred Patterson, let's talk about being a professional fundraiser and the dollars you've been able to help us secure. So, tell us about that part of what you do.
The Old Hickory Council has about a $3 million annual operating budget. And as I mentioned previously, we're completely privately funded, no government dollars whatsoever. But we do get grants from foundations, United Funds, United Ways throughout the area. So we have to find creative ways by which we can allow the community to support us, and through our fundraising efforts, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. One of the things that I do is help develop relationships. My job is to do research and to find out what community partners in the areas that we serve might want to know about what we're doing. Maybe there's some folks that aren't directly involved in the scouting program week to week, but they have a love of young people. So we want to know who those folks are so we can tell them about our mission and tell them about what we do in scouting, so that they might say, yeah, I want to get involved in that. I want to be able to be a part of what scouting's mission's all about, and perhaps provide some funding to us that we didn't have before. So my job is to kind of cultivate all that and to try to provide some of those resources. Another part of what I do, in addition to the annual fundraising is through our endowment. We've started in the last couple of years trying to find ways to sustain scouting into the future, to make sure that those folks who have a love for scouting or a love for young people can make a significant impact years down the road. Perhaps they would like to give to our endowment program or make a planned gift through their estate. And I have a lot of knowledge in that area because you mentioned a few minutes ago about my previous business. I've only been working for the Boy Scouts for 10 years. But for 30 years, I was in the estate planning business. And I did, for individuals and businesses, I worked with helping those folks to plan their estates. So I'm very familiar with estate planning and that kind of thing. So in my new job with scouting in the last 10 years, I've been able to help our volunteers and donors find ways in which through their estate, through their wills and their trust, to make a gift to scouting. That would be a long-lasting way to make a gift to our endowment program.
Talk about the tax-free implication of, so you had capital gains, significant
sure.
Pluses in an investment,
sure.
and can pass it to scouting with tax-free.
Yeah, that's a good question. Through charitable donations through an estate, folks who have highly appreciated property, be it stocks or land or whatever.
Highly appreciated.
Right, exactly. They can, instead of having to sell that, pay their capital gains tax, and then only have like maybe 70% of it left, if they don't need that property, would like to donate it, they can make donations of that highly appreciated property to a local charity like the Boy Scouts and not pay any tax on that. Basically, that charity gets the 30% they would have paid in taxes.
Doesn't go to the government.
And it doesn't go to the government, and that person gets a nice tax deduction for it. Same way with like IRA distributions. You know, if a person has an IRA and they've done well through life and they don't need all of it, maybe they're not living off of it, maybe they can give a portion of that IRA instead of giving it through minimum distributions they have to make to satisfy at age 70, you know, the IRS rules. They can give that, they can direct their investment fund to give that directly to the Boy Scouts, and there's no taxes at all.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways in which folks can make sustainable and lasting gifts to the Boy Scouts and have some tax, you know, breaks along the way.
Yeah.
And so my job is to help guide people.
Search out these people.
Yeah.
Find them.
And work with their professional advisors, you know, their attorneys and their CPAs to try to figure out a way in which they can do that. Sometimes, Gary, it's just as simple as including us in your will. You know, you might, you know, for instance, in my will I've done that. I've left the Boy Scouts a part of my estate when I pass on, and it's easy to do, and especially if you've got a love for the program that you're trying to support. Or if somebody's got an old life insurance policy. I just had a man email me last week saying he's got an old life insurance policy. He doesn't need it anymore. He thought about canceling. It's all paid up. He says, I'll just give it to the Boy Scouts. So it was about a $50,000 policy. He just gave it ownership and the beneficiary over to the Boy Scouts, and he's not taxed on it. And it's you know, it's a great way to give a legacy to an organization that he supports.
So just out of the blue, he came into your life.
Out of the blue. Well, I'd like to think that maybe through some of my promotional efforts and getting the word out that
Sure.
maybe it triggers something in his own mind to do that. But yeah, certainly.
So that's a significant area that you're working in right now.
Yes, it is.
Finding those people who have that income that they can
Right,
give
exactly.
to you.
And so sustainability of our program is extremely important, and we want to make sure that Scouts 50 years from now who grow up in this area will still be able to enjoy Camp Raven Knob, still be able to, you know, enjoy the fruits of the scouting program, and so that we can provide sustainable ways in which we can still fund it and keep Raven Knob, you know, active and in good shape. Some folks might give to our endowment program stated specifically they want to do something at Raven Knob, keep the lights on or pay for a building or do this or that. Or they might give to our endowment unrestricted to allow our endowment committee to direct those funds through the endowment to whatever needs that the Scouts have. So we'll be glad to take funds either restricted or unrestricted for our endowment, which we're happy to help them with.
Fred, you've blessed us in a special way today, and I'm glad for these last 10 years that you've given to Scouting, which started in 1966.
Right.
So if you'd like to just give us a few heartfelt
Sure.
Outreach, if you will, about how your life has been
Right.
enhanced by Scouting.
You know, I had a little bit of a rough family life when I was a preteen and that kind of thing. And so, as I mentioned, getting involved in Scouting, along with my faith, has been a real anchor throughout my entire life.
Wow.
And my Scout leaders that are involved in those days, many of whom are still alive, have been huge part of helping me to grow up and love Scouting and being part of Scouting. And I've met lifelong friends. I've got friends I met back in the 60s and 70s that are still best friends today through the Scouting program. It's just been a huge part of who I am. I'll be retiring at the end of this year from the professional ranks of Scouting. And I don't know who will take my place, but I'm hoping that person will have the same passion and forethought and abilities to be able to keep the torch going, with regards to fundraising that I've had. And of course, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to go back to being a volunteer.
Good.
So I'll be around Raven now, but I'll still be around in Scouting to help as a volunteer, because I just can't walk away from the program that's been part of my life for,
I loved what
50
you
years.
said about Scouting being such an anchor.
Right.
Fred Patterson has joined us today. He lives in Winston-Salem. He's a Boy Scout executive. He's involved in bringing the best out in people who want to leave a legacy, who believe in the values and the moral and ethical decisions that youngsters make can be aided by Boy Scouts of America. And I want to thank you for being with us, and thank Wilkes Communications, the RiverStreet Network, and WIFM, and particularly today, Mr. Fred Patterson, as he gives and shares and cares his dedication to Scouts. Thank you.
Gary, thank you so much.
God
It's been a
bless
pleasure.
you,
Thank
friend.
you.
Thank you.